Ray, it's a pleasure to have you here at Wipro. So you have been a futuristic thinker and advised quite a few customers about digital transformation, future of work, and the current topic of AI in driving businesses. So let me ask you a few questions about how do you see this transformation, right? And let's start with enterprise applications, which has been an area a lot of enterprises have been invested in over several for several years, right? And we see that the enterprise applications platforms are moving away from being systems of record to being systems of execution that are kind of driven on more functional convergence and using agents for doing a lot of the task execution. So, how do you see the application platforms themselves evolving in this area?
Hari, you're absolutely right. I think the most important piece is we are really trying to figure out how we're going to take advantage of those platforms, because the platforms hold the transactional data. And what we really want to do is abstract from that data so we can make better decisions. Right. We've tried that with analytics. We've tried that with BI. We've done all these different things. And the result is no decision. Right? We can't go from data to decisions. Right. Now we finally have an opportunity with agentic AI to go from data to decisions, and that's what the application platforms are going to serve a role. The question really is different. This question is, what would you like to automate? Where would you like to create decision automation? That's where we're going to spend a lot of opportunities. And then the other question we ask is, when and where we'll insert a human?
Right. When that's a great way. And I think the way you had probably put it elsewhere, right? The way we see agents are pretty much now APIs with a decision engineering behind it, right? So in context of this evolving landscape, right, and how it changes the application landscape, how do you see a system integrated like us, who have been traditionally helping doing consulting work and then implementing these SaaS offerings, if I may, to the customers? How do you see us evolving in this landscape?
I think the most important thing is, if I was a CIO today, I would be looking for a trusted partner to help me orchestrate my way through this, right? I'm going to have platforms. I'm going to have custom build. You and I talked about this. It's cheaper to build than buy in many cases.
Right.
I still have a transactional system that has my integrity, my record. That's my small language model.
Right.
Now I'm trying to bring all these things together. I need help with orchestration. I need help to be able to get to the end to end, because if I want to automate my processes, I need to put my data in one place, which is all the transactional systems. I need to manage, orchestrate, and automate my processes. And then I got to manage my user experiences.
Right.
That's the heart of enterprise applications.
Right.
And so what we're doing right now is we're decomposing, and then we're actually reassembling, and we're going to build those into agents.
I mean, that's an interesting the way you put it. And I see, if you look at us as Wipro as well, we have put a $100 billion investment in AI, right?
Wow, okay.
And that's across, the way we see it as we have done investments in helping customers on the native AI, which comes from all these platforms. Every platform is bringing its set of agents. And we're looking at also overlay solutions, where you look at really solutions which sit on top of these platforms and can help orchestrate it. And at the same time, there are also build part, which you kind of talked about, where agents are being built, custom built as well on the hyperscalers as well. So in this ecosystem, right, how do you see all of this convergence of all these agents coming together? More critically, how do you really see the value coming out of that?
I think the most important part is cross-platform multi-agentic AI. We're going to be able to have to do that. And so just because you start in one area, maybe you choose Oracle, you choose Salesforce, you choose SAP, you're going to have to go to all the other areas.
Exactly.
And it doesn't end with an end-to-end process to be just in one transactional system. So this is where we're going to have a lot of help from system integrators like yourselves to figure out, how do I manage that, right? So do I have a control tower for the agent? How do I manage it? What does security look like? If I introduce new types of protocols, where does that go into place? And this is where we're going to see a lot of the advancements.
Absolutely. And I think, you put it well, right? If you look at any value streams, right? Lead to order and order cash, it spawns across multiple systems. The CRM system could be from Salesforce with its set of agents. And then you got SAP having, the back office processes, its own agents. And how do you orchestrate all of this together, right? Taking that further a bit, right? In terms of it becoming really autonomous, how do you see that evolving, right? In the sense that, yes, you said at some point in time, the determination is about where to keep human in the loop rather than where do you keep the agent in the loop, right?
Yep. Well, we talked about that, right? We're going from augmentation, we use a little bit of help, acceleration, we're trying to move things a little bit faster, to automation.
Right.
But after that, that's where agentics are coming to place, and then autonomous. Right. And that's really the loop we're actually going to see some of the benefits when we make the move from autonomous, right? At that point, we're not sure, because we're not necessarily the humans in charge anymore. It would be the agents in charge.
Right.
So we get a very interesting dynamic at that point. Where are we today? We want to take people to be able to go from augmentation to automation. That first step is going to require a really good data strategy. And that's really the foundation for all this data to decisions.
Right. So obviously this is a big transformation, right? And it requires a lot of investments as well. And while we as an system integrator would like to do that, how do you see from a commercial models in ways how an SI like us can play a role in helping customers make this journey faster?
I think the biggest thing is get a data strategy down. I think every organization has to figure out their data strategy. Then they have to figure out when and where do they want to automate. And then more importantly, when and where do they want to insert a human, right? We can assume the automation is going to happen. Okay, so now we can do an exception-based approach to design where do humans play a role in the process. So if you take a map and you realize in your process map, you've got 500 points, maybe 500 of those points will get automated to 450.
Right.
And then what do we do? Well, here I put 50 human interaction points, and I'm going to design that very differently, right? And over time, maybe you're going to learn more, and that becomes 50, becomes 25, becomes 5. That's really kind of the efficiencies that we're going to get to. And those efficiencies are like wide-ranging. Let's take the order to cash example. That's 47 systems you're connecting.
Right.
Now, if I can get 47 to act like one, or I can reduce the number of systems, reduce the number of endpoints, that's where we're going to see a lot of operational efficiency.
Absolutely. It's also about putting the business case to be able to help make it happen, right?
Start with the business case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So great. We talked a lot about AI and agentic AI and impact on enterprise applications. I'm going to broaden the scope a bit. I mean, no conversation can happen without talking about the tariff wars and
tariffs. What are tariffs? I have no idea what you're talking about.
and the geopolitical uncertainty and so forth. So, in terms of enterprises and businesses, what's your take on how they navigate this pestle dynamics? I know you talked a lot about the entire pestle framework. So can you elaborate a bit on that?
It's a great point. We use a framework called PESTLE within Constellations: politics, economics, society, technology, environment, and legislative. And we try to look at the macro conditions. I think the important thing to realize with tariffs is it's really a tool to actually reshape the global trade environment. What the U.S. is trying to do is align security at the same time as they're trying to align trade. And both are happening. Let's take the Middle East, for example, with 15 trillion in foreign direct investment, 5 trillion coming from the Middle East directly, 3 trillion coming from private sector, right? That's 8 trillion. Well, if you think about what's really going on there, it's a national security issue. We're seeing oil prices come down with more oil being pumped. We're seeing a replacement of technologies to a more American set of technologies. And we're seeing an investment and collaboration in the Middle East with the Saudis. That is a part of the tariff conversation because what we're trying to do is realign security as well as realign economics. Now, in other areas, when you look at countries like China, what's the situation there? Well, it's really about national security. Right. What can we do? Because China has a manufacturing capacity of basically 5x of the world. Its power consumption is actually bigger than the world, but their cost per kilowatt hour is lower. They're maybe at 7 to 8 cents. The US is maybe at 12, 13 cents a kilowatt hour. That's still not enough to compete. And so if we can't drive energy prices down, the world was not going to be as competitive. So let's take the view of an AI from that PESTLE framework. So what we have in the US is we have lots of data. We have lots of chips. We have very expensive energy. What does China have? Very cheap energy, lots of data, but no chips, right? So this creates a very interesting situation. What do we have in Europe? We have no chips, no energy, no data. Now we got to play a very different game. So each country is going to have to create a very different strategy in this trade war.
And given that most enterprises operate across multiple geographies, how do you see that playing out?
Number one rule: do not take sides. Right. The trick here is not to play politics. The trick is to actually deliver what your customers need in that country.
From an IT perspective, purely from if you're a CIO and from an IT perspective, how do you see them being able to adopt to these dynamics?
I think sovereign AI will occur. I think data centers and the rule and regulations will be regional, and your job is to comply with those regulations. We do that in business every day. Right. I don't think it's going to be any different. It's just going to be codified in a digital map.
Yeah, and probably a lot more about having a very decoupled, setup with a lot more agility in supply chain, agility in, how you price and so forth.
Yes, your supply chain logistics will be different. Oh, take an example, right? Let's say we're to make an iPhone in the US. How would you arbitrage your manufacturing? Is it in India? Is it in Vietnam? Does it get assembled in Mexico? Do you try to build it in the US? We're going to have to run those scenarios.
Absolutely. And at least we think from an IT point of view, a lot of it could be opportunity as well. Right? Right. So as a service provider, again, going back, right, in helping the CIOs being able to handle the pestle dynamics and so forth, what do you think should be the role and how do you think we can play a big part in this.
I think the important part is really CIOs need an advisor and need a guide to be able to get you to the end state. And right now it's helping them not only understand the business value, but really understand where the frontier and the disruptive technologies are going. AI is just one aspect of the equation, right? We're thinking about what happens in quantum and cybersecurity. We're trying to figure out what happens with, AI and computation at the edges. And physical AI is about to happen. So all these things are happening at the same time where companies are trying to achieve what we call exponential efficiency. How do we get to 10x, 100x, 1000x? I mean, we're not talking about a 30% gain. We're talking about 10x, and that scale. That's a very different scale than what we're normally used to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we at Wipro, I think we pride ourselves in being that kind of advisor, right? A strategic advisor with our consulting led and AI powered and experience enabled approach. We definitely think that we'll be able to help customers navigate that shift. So Ken, Ray, it's been great speaking to you. I know we spoke about a broad range of topics, talking about the impact of the evolution of enterprise platforms to become from systems of record to execution. We talked a bit about the agentic AI and the impact of it, and how we as system integrators can help in really deriving the value out of this shift. We talked a bit about the larger dynamics as well, the pestle dynamics of the environment, the customer's impact, and what we can do.
We even talked geopolitics.
Absolutely, we talk about it. So it's great, really speaking to you as ever, and look forward to talking to you a lot more.
And thank you for having me here.
Thank you.